Well, it's not just the math. It's the fact that this settlement, which is something Joe Biden has been trying to get through for over 7 months, isn't just a ceasefire and an exchange of prisoners and hostages. It contemplates a second stage where Israel will negotiate with Hamas on the future of Gaza. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen, but I am worried now about a point that I've seen developing. I think Donald Trump deserves credit for forcing, if that's what you want to say, Netanyahu into accepting the deal. But I am worried that Trump may be under the impression that the ceasefire is going to be permanent, and that if the Israelis decide later that for whatever reason they don't plan to negotiate with Hamas, which I certainly wouldn't do on the future of Gaza. I think the future of Gaza needs the elimination of Hamas. I think the chances this could work out badly for the Israelis.
Ambassador, you're not alone here, because Israel's national security minister threatened to quit over this very deal, saying it would erase the achievements made against Hamas during the war. Do you think that's a legitimate concern? Can there ever be lasting peace if Hamas still exists?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think the 6-week pause in and of itself is the end of the world. It's bad. 900, 1,000 Palestinians are going to be released, many of whom will simply go back into fighting for Hamas. The partial withdrawal of Israeli forces may have to be retaken with the lives of more Israeli soldiers. And who knows what else Hamas may be able to accomplish. So I wouldn't do it, but the part that worries me is the part that comes after this initial hostage exchange. And we're going to see it, I think, in Lebanon as well, where the ceasefire deal that Netanyahu agreed to under enormous pressure from Joe Biden expires on January the 26th. Neither Hamas nor Hezbollah are really finished yet. They've been severely damaged, but they're still kicking, unfortunately. Nor has Israel dealt with the ultimate problem, the truly existential problem, which is Iran's nuclear weapon program.
Let's talk more about the multiple phases. You say that means each phase has new opportunities for each stakeholder. Can you explain that to me?
Well, the second phase, we haven't seen the precise words of the deal, but it's been around long enough. I think we know that in the second phase, the parties commit to negotiate for a permanent ceasefire, and that involves, in the second phase, talking about how to rebuild the Gaza Strip. The third phase is when it actually happens. And I think what many in Israel are worried about is that if Israel's now trapped into a negotiation with Hamas, that would mean that many of the sacrifices go away. There is no peace for Israel as long as Hamas survives in the Gaza Strip. It's a hard thing to say, but the harder thing happened on October the 7th when Hamas showed what it was really made of.
Over 400 days ago. You believe Trump's pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu helped get this deal through. I have to ask, Ambassador, what should Trump do in regards to the situation after January 20th, after Inauguration Day on Monday?
I think, number one, privately or publicly, he should signal that the United States not only doesn't object if Israel wants to eliminate Iran's nuclear weapons program, but that we'll provide defense and backup and intelligence and maybe even more. As long as the Ayatollahs rule in Tehran, these terrorist proxies, whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, the Shia militia groups in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, terrorists on the West Bank, are going to be a continuing problem. Israel has never been in a better position to fix this as far as the eye can see, and frankly, their safety, our safety, the safety of the Gulf Arab countries would be significantly enhanced if we could deal with this as what I think it is. It's a comprehensive problem. It begins in Tehran.
So you don't agree with the ceasefire deal. What would you like to see instead of this deal playing out?
Well, I would have liked Israel to have the opportunity to continue to pound away on Hamas. I don't think yet Israel has fully explored the tunnel system under Gaza. This thing is extensive and complex, really beyond anybody's imagination. I don't think anybody fully understood it. And one thing that I feel confident has not been explored are the tunnels that go from Gaza into Egypt, which is one way Hamas has survived. It's gotten weapons and ammunition in through those tunnels.
Right.
And there will not be any chance to defeat Hamas unless those tunnels are all cut off, as well as the ones the Israelis have already destroyed.
Thanks Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.